Hello everyone, welcome back to Soccer Showdown. Joe Archino here with the one and only Martino Puccio. And look, we all want to travel the world, but why leave your house if you don't have to? That's why we're here, and that's why we do this show for you. But Martino, starting off in the UEFA Champions League, the group stage has ended, and we have our winners, we have our runners-up. So the first question I have, obviously, Martino, is who do you think showed the best performance out of the group winners? And just to kind of recap it all for everyone, we have a nice graphic to put up here. But to all the group winners we had out of this are Arsenal, Napoli, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Monaco, Dortmund, Leicester, and Juventus. So, Martino, out of the group winners, who do you think had the strongest showing?
I think you have to go Leicester, not because they're the best team, but because it's best performance. And I think it's a fantastic performance for them just because it's the first time they've ever been in the Champions League and how much they're struggling in the Premier League right now. So when you go in the Champions League the first time, you're going to have problems with depth and trying to manage your minutes over the course of the season because sometimes you're going to be playing 2 to 3 times a week because in England there's so many different cups all the time. So I think they really managed it real well, and just not even to advance but to win the group is huge for them.
And certainly Leicester has struggled tremendously in the Premier League that season, but those struggles have not carried over to the biggest competition of all, which is the Champions League. But we're going to bring back up that graphic that you know and you love, that you just saw, to go and look at the runners-up. Martino, there are no slouches in the runners-up. We have Paris Saint-Germain, Benfica, Manchester City, Bayer Leverkusen, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, FC Porto, and Sevilla. Out of the runners-up, which really, I mean, there are so many star-studded clubs in that group, who do you think had the best showing out of the runners-up?
I think in terms of expectations, it definitely has to be Man City because they had probably the best team in the world in their group in Barcelona, and they did manage to beat them 3-1 at home, which is one of their bigger victories in recent years. So I think you have to go with Man City because expectations for teams like Bayern and Real Madrid are so high, and for them to finish second in their group, I mean, it doesn't really bode well for them. And I think that Real Madrid's really following that narrative lately of teams that really can't repeat in the Champions League.
Well, one of the clubs in the English Premier League, which is not in the Champions League, but really has become the solidified number one team in England, is Chelsea. Chelsea has really proclaimed themselves the top dog in the Premier League this season. They lead the league in first place with 34 points, just coming off a game which you predicted correctly they would defeat Manchester City. So, Martino, let me ask you, is Chelsea running away with this league, and have they really solidified themselves as the best club in this league?
I don't think they're running away with the league, but I definitely think they solidified themselves as the best team for now because they've won, I think that was 8 in a row after they beat Man City. And like you said, they're not in the Champions League, so they're playing once a week, which is a huge advantage over all these other teams because, like we said with Leicester, it's obviously affecting them. So I think it's huge for Chelsea to be up there right now, and they just got the difficult part of their schedule out of the way because they defeated Spurs and they defeated Man City, and they should have an easier stretch coming up going into 2017.
Well, let's talk about the club that they just defeated, Manchester City, and of course the manager there, Pep Guardiola. And I think it's a very interesting scenario with Manchester. They find themselves now in 4th place. They start their season with a perfect record, 6 wins from 6 matches. And now I think the questions are coming. Is Pep Guardiola struggling with his adjustments to the Premier League? We all know how many great things he's done as a manager, but we all kind of knew this was a different ball game for him. It's a new league. It's a different style of playing. Martino, are people being fair, or is he struggling right now adjusting to this league?
I think you can't always put the blame on the coach that much. And I've said this in the beginning when they started off really well, that, you know, it wasn't really all his fault because, I mean, he is just the coach. Players do have to execute at the end of the day. So when you have a new manager in a new league, it's going to be difficult. But then again, when you have Antonio Conte at Chelsea having so much success, winning 8 games in a row, I mean, you kind of have to not panic a little bit, but you do have to worry because, I mean, look, Conte has the same situation, new team, first year, different league, never coached in this league, and he's doing fantastic. And it's not to say Man City's playing horribly, but I mean the expectations are different with Pep because of how much success he had at Barcelona, how much success he had at Bayern. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of fair criticism for him.
Well, now let's go and turn our attention to the match of the weekend in the English Premier League. We have Manchester United welcoming in the Tottenham Hotspur. Well, I'll ask you, Martino. You know, Tottenham, they get bounced out of the group stage of the Champions League this week, so obviously disappointing, but now their sole focus really will be on winning the Premier League. And now Manchester United, they have struggled mightily this season, but they've started to play a little bit better recently. Who do you have in this matchup? Very even. You have Tottenham in 5th place, Man United right behind them in 6th.
Yeah, this is a real strange match for me because it's Spurs that have been playing better than Man United. How many times have you can say that the past 20 years? Not many. So I think I'm going to go with Spurs in this one, 2-1. I know they got bounced from the Champions League, which is really not what they wanted, but they still have a chance to win Europa League, just like Man United, and that can get them into the Champions League. So who knows? I think this is a big game for both of them. I think Spurs obviously have a better chance of just getting into the Champions League in terms of standings in the league. But I'm really going to go with Spurs here. I don't see many things changing for United. I think you're really going to see them focusing on the Europa League because at this point in the season, I think that might be their only way to get in there.
Well, we're not done with the predictions on this show, and for this Italian Serie A portion of the show, I will also make a pick like last week with El Clasico. But Martino, it is a battle for solidifying second place in Italy this weekend. We have AS Roma taking on AC Milan. Both are tied for second place right now with 32 points. This is a massive match this weekend that will really determine a lot. So I'm going to let you go first. Who do you have? You've been on AC Milan's corner a lot this season. Are you going with them again?
Yeah, I have. And I'm only going with them because of the suspension of Kevin Strootman. You can see, I'll put the jersey up.
We always like to do our predictions.
Put the jersey up for it. But crazy plot twist here. It's El Shaarawy, who does play for Roma now. This is when he played for Milan. I have them winning this game just because Kevin Strootman got suspended for 2 games after the match antics against Lazio. They're coming off a week in which they're playing in the Europa League, so they're not going to be as healthy. And they've had injuries over the course of the season with Florenzi and Paredes has been out. And Milan got back Giacomo Bonaventura, who might be their best player on the team. So I am going to go with them there, even though it's at Roma. I think Milan will win this one 2-1.
I do think Milan has a little bit of a helping hand in their path because Roma expends so much energy last weekend defeating their eternal rival in Lazio, but this is a home match for them at the Stadio Olimpico. And that, among many other reasons, how could I not pick Roma to come out and solidify second place in the match this weekend? But I think more than anything, this match really does come down to experience. And look, Milan is really turning a great corner, but I think being home for Roma will help ease their burden a little bit. They do have some key injuries, some key players out right now, but I think the experience they have will help them put them over the hump just a little bit. But now we'll return to what we talked about on the show last week, and that's El Clasico. We ended up both selecting different teams, but it ended up in a draw. Sergio Ramos, like he does so many times, found a late net equalizer to bring Real Madrid within a 6-point lead in first place in La Liga. So I'll ask you, Martino. Barcelona, they had their chances in the El Clasico. Messi missed one. Neymar missed one. It just seems like something is missing with Barcelona this season. Maybe it's a spark. Maybe it's something small. What do you see it as Barcelona missing?
I think it might just be a case that they're too good and they kind of get bored sometimes because, they have the best attack of all time in the sport. I think most people would agree to that at this point. But like I said, it's just not those 3 guys at the top. It's really towards the back and in the midfield. The midfield isn't as great as it was back when they had those dominant teams, and the defense isn't as good. But I think there is some worry when you draw a game that late against your rival like that. When Sergio Ramos, as he's done so many times with a late game heartbreak goal for the opposing team, I just don't think they've hit their stride yet. I think they're going to, because we looked at Real Madrid last year and they were struggling right around this time, and then they made the move when they fired Rafa Benitez and Zinedine Zidane took over. But I don't think there's going to be a firing at Barcelona. I just think they just got to hit a game where they hit their stride, and then they're not going to stop because they're that kind of team that gets that.
It's not too late.
It's never too late. No, not in December. No.
Well, Martino, we go to our former Barca man and current NYCFC star, David Villa, who was named the MLS MVP of the league. And look, this is a guy who's done some tremendous things for Major League Soccer and especially for NYCFC. But I'll ask you, what has he meant to the league as a whole? Because we know the MLS is dying to attract fans. They're dying to get attention. What has he meant to this league?
I think he's meant a lot just because New York City hasn't really had that big star. I know Thierry Henry played for the Red Bulls, but that's still New Jersey. It's not right in the backyard in the Bronx where the Yankees play, the biggest sports team in the world probably. So I think having a guy like David Villa just to get over 20 goals, to win MVP, even though I don't even know how he won MVP because Jovinko didn't even finish in the top 3. Whatever, that's besides the point. David Villa being that big of a star for them, especially when Frank Lampard's on his way out and he didn't really play that much, and then you got Andrea Pirlo also for that team. I think it was a really big thing for New York City FC. Even though they didn't get that far in the playoffs, I think just to have a guy that wins MVP for your team is massive for them.
Well, there's no doubt about that. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in once again to Soccer Showdown. Joe Archino here with the one and only Martino Puccio. We'll catch everybody sometime soon.